6:10 in the morning, a bakery on Halsted Street, and a white envelope sitting on the counter next to the register. It has been sitting there for 3 days. Otis owns the place. 58 years old, unlocks that front door at 4 in the morning, has done it for 22 years. He has not opened that envelope. He already knows what is inside it. The big convection oven, the one that does the morning bread, died on a Tuesday. The repair guy took one look, made a face, and said the words nobody wants to hear. Not worth fixing. The quote for a new one came in that envelope. $9,400. Otis's bakery brings in around $240,000 a year. He pays himself $88,000 of that. By any normal measure, this is a successful man. That morning, his account had $1,240 in it. Diane is at the end of the counter with a small coffee. Same as every morning before her shift. She makes $49,000 a year at a veterinary clinic. Less than half of what Otis pays himself. 9 days earlier, the transmission went out on her 9-year-old sedan. $3,100. She paid it, drove home, and by dinner she had stopped thinking about it. Same street, same month, same kind of bad luck. One of them lost an afternoon. The other one signed a 36-month contract. And here is the part that makes people uncomfortable. The gap between those 2 mornings was not $39,000 of income. It was about $10,000 of stillness. Money that had been sitting somewhere long enough to stop moving. You have probably been told that $10,000 is not a lot of money. In the world of finance content, it is a rounding error. Nobody makes a video about it. There is no yacht in the thumbnail. 10 grand does not change your address. It does not change your car, and it will not let you quit anything. So people skip it. They stay at 2,000, 3,000, 4, and they wait for the number that is supposed to matter. 100 grand, a paid-off house, whatever the finish line is this month. I want to tell you what actually happens at $10,000, because it is not what the number looks like. $10,000 does not buy you anything. It buys you a category change. The day that money is sitting in an account, and it is not scheduled for anything, you stop being a person that things happen to, and you become a person who handles things. I have a name for that moment. Under $10,000, money is soft. It moves. Every dollar you put down has somewhere to be, and something always finds it. A tire, a copay, a birthday, a slow month. Soft money evaporates and you cannot even point at where it went. Somewhere around 10,000, money hardens. It stops evaporating. It sits there through 3 bad weeks and it is still there. Call it the hardening point. Same dollars, completely different physics. Otis has actually reached $10,000 3 separate times in his life. 2011, he got to 11 grand and bought a delivery van for $8,900. 2017, he got there again and put $11,000 into a new front and an awning. 2022, he got there a 3rd time, and his daughter got married, and $12,400 walked out the door in 1 weekend. 3 times he touched it. 3 times the money stayed soft. Not one of those purchases was stupid. That is the whole problem. The money never got the chance to harden, because it always had somewhere to be. So here is what I am giving you. 6 things your first $10,000 unlocks. Not 6 ways to get there. 6 things that change the day you have it. And none of them are getting rich, because getting rich is not the point. And honestly, at $10,000 it is not even on the table yet. And before anyone types it, this is not about earning more. Otis pays himself $88,000 a year, and he has never held $10,000 for longer than 4 months. Diane earns $49,000, and she crossed it 16 years ago, and never went back under. Whatever your number is, this applies. Quick thing before we get into it. If this is the kind of money talk you want more of, hit subscribe, and a like helps this thing find people. I would also really like to hear your side of it. Tell me in the comments what your first real chunk of savings did for you, or what keeps eating it. I read those. Okay. Number 1. Number 1. Emergencies stop being emergencies. They turn into errands. I want you to notice what actually happened in Diane's week, because it is very boring, and boring is the point. The transmission goes. The shop calls. $3,100. She says do it. She pays. She goes back to work. Total emotional cost of that event, about 40 minutes. Now Otis. Same size problem, slightly bigger number. He had $1,200. He could not pay for the oven, And he could not run a bakery without an oven, so his options collapsed down to one. He financed it. 36 months at 24%, which is what small equipment financing looks like when you need it today instead of next quarter. $369 a month. If he runs it to the end, he pays $13,276 for a $9,400 oven. Almost $4,000, purely for the crime of not having the money on the day the oven broke. But the money is honestly the smaller half of it. The bigger half is that Otis now has a payment. That payment does not care how February goes. It does not care that it snowed for 9 days and nobody came in for bread. It shows up on the 15th for the next 3 years, and every decision he makes for the next 3 years is made with that payment sitting on his shoulder. That is the thing people miss about emergency money. It is not really about the emergency. It is about the tail. An emergency without savings does not end when the emergency ends. It attaches itself to you and follows you for years. Bankrate's 2026 numbers say 59% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency out of savings. Not 10,000, 1,000. Almost a quarter have no emergency savings at all, and about a third owe more on credit cards than they have saved anywhere. So look at the arithmetic of your own life for a second. When was the last unplanned bill you got hit with? Not a fun expense, an unplanned one. What was the number? For most people it lands between $800 and $4,000, and that is exactly the range $10,000 covers without you having to make a phone call to anybody. Go through the list in your head. A water heater is $1,500 to $2,000 installed. A root canal with a crown, no insurance, runs $2,000 to $3,000. 4 tires on a normal car is $800. A furnace in January is $4,000 to $6,000. An emergency room visit, with a decent plan, still leaves you holding $1,500. 6 weeks of not working because your back went out is the whole $10,000 and then some. Not one of those is a catastrophe. Every one of those is a Tuesday that happens to somebody every day, and every one of those is the exact event that puts a person on a payment plan they are still carrying in 3 years. $10,000 does not protect you from disaster. It protects you from the ordinary. And the ordinary is what actually takes people down. Stay with that idea, because number 2 is where it starts costing you money you never see on any statement. Number 2, you start paying the cash price. There are 2 prices for almost everything in this country. There is the price for people who have money right now, and there is the price for people who need to spread it out. Nobody labels them, but the second one is always higher, and if you have been under $10,000 your whole adult life, you have been paying the second one your entire life without ever seeing the first one. Look at Otis's month. Car insurance, he pays monthly, because paying 6 months up front means finding $900 in 1 week, and he never has $900 in 1 week. Paying monthly costs him somewhere around 6 to 8% more than paying up front. His flour supplier gives a discount on a full pallet. He buys half pallets, so he pays more per bag, every single week, for 22 years. When the walk-in cooler started making noise last spring, he did not replace the part. He had a guy patch it, twice, for $200 each, and then it died anyway. None of that is on any bank statement as a line item called being broke. It is just spread through everything he buys. Diane pays her insurance in one shot every 6 months. She replaced the cooler in her own house before it died, on her own timeline, which meant she could shop for 3 weeks and take the sale price. When the transmission went, she was not the customer who had to say yes to whatever the first shop said, because she was not desperate. She got a second quote. The second quote was $3,100. The first one was $39. That is $800 for the ability to wait 2 days. Add it up over a year and this quietly runs somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 for most households. Which is a strange kind of trap, right? The money you would need to stop paying the extra is roughly the same money the extra is taking from you. That is the loop. That is the actual reason people run in place for a decade with a job that pays fine. The first 10,000 is the tool that breaks that loop. Not because 10 grand is impressive, but because 10 grand makes you the customer who can walk away. And the customer who can walk away gets a different price. Always has. I am not done with this yet, but number 3 is the one people always underestimate. So let me get there. Number 3. Your money hires its first employee. $10,000 in a decent high-yield savings account right now earns you somewhere around 4%. Best rates in August of 2026 are sitting near 4.2. The national average savings rate, meanwhile, is about 0.38%, which is a fancy way of saying most people's savings earn nothing at all. 4% on $10,000 is $400 a year, $33 a month. Now, $33 a month is not going to change your life. I am not going to stand here and pretend it will, but I want you to look at what it actually is, because the size is not the point. That is the first money in your entire life that showed up without you being there. You did not drive anywhere for it. You were not standing. Nobody thanked you for it. Nobody scheduled you for it. It did not care whether you were sick that week. It is $33 that exists because the money existed. That is a different species of income than every dollar you have earned up to now. Diane still remembers the first month she noticed it. 16 years ago, she was 35, and the number in her account went up by an amount she had not put there. She told me it was $22, and she sat there and looked at it for a while, because it was the first time in her life money had ever come toward her on its own. $33 a month is your electric bill in the spring. It is a phone line. It is your car insurance in some states. Small, but it is proof of the mechanism, and once you have seen the mechanism work with your own money, you will never see a paycheck the same way again. You start asking a different question, not how much do I make, but how much of what I have is working. And there is a second half to this that only shows up if you leave it alone. $10,000, untouched, growing at 7% a year, is about $19,700 in 10 years, and roughly $38,700 in 20. You never add another dollar. You just do not spend it. That is a used car in 10 years, and most of a down payment in 20, out of one decision you made once, in a month you barely remember. Which is why the phrase, "I dipped into savings," costs so much more than the amount you dipped. It is never the $4,000 you took. It is the $15,000 that $4,000 was on its way to becoming. Otis, for 22 years, has had exactly $0 working. Every dollar he has ever had has been Otis working. He is 58, and every dollar that comes in still requires him standing up at 4 in the morning. That is the real bill for staying under the hardening point, not the interest, the fact that nothing ever starts working for you. All right, number 4. This is the one that changes your life fastest, and it has nothing to do with math. Number 4. You get the word no. Here is what $10,000 really is. It is about 3 months of a normal person's expenses. Diane's whole life costs $27.80 a month, so for her, 10 grand was 3.5 months of oxygen. 3 months of oxygen changes what you are allowed to say out loud. 2 years ago, the clinic tried to move Diane onto a Saturday rotation, every Saturday. Same pay. She said no. She said it calmly, in one sentence, and she did not rehearse it in the car for a week first. And the reason she could say it is that if it had gone badly, she had months. Not days, months. They found another way to cover Saturdays. Nobody ever brings it up now. Otis cannot say no to anybody. His flour supplier raised prices 11% last year, and Otis took it, because switching suppliers means a 2-week overlap where you carry 2 accounts, and he cannot carry 2 accounts. He has a wholesale client that pays him at 60 days instead of 30, and he has never once pushed on it, because that client is 19% of his revenue, and he cannot afford 3 weeks of silence while they think about it. He owns the building. He owns the ovens. He does not own his own answers. That is what people mean when they say money is freedom, and it never sounds like this when they say it. It is not a beach. It is the ability to say the true thing to your boss, your landlord, your supplier, your brother-in-law, and not have your stomach drop while you say it. Ask yourself, honestly, what is the last thing you agreed to that you did not want to agree to? A shift, a rate, a job, a favor, a place to live. Now ask what would have had to be in your account for you to have said no. For most people, the answer is not a fortune. It is about 3 months. It is about $10,000. Nope, still not finished. Number 5 is the one nobody puts on a list. Number 5. Your head gets quiet, and your decisions get better. There is a thing that happens to people who are running under the line, and it is not laziness, and it is not stupidity. It is that a chunk of your thinking is permanently rented out. Part of you is always running the background calculation. Does the deposit clear before the card hits? Can this tire last until the 15th? If the kid needs the dentist this month, what comes off the list? It runs while you are at work. It runs while somebody is talking to you at dinner. It runs at 2 in the morning, which is where most of the damage happens. That background process is eating capacity you need for everything else, which is why financial stress does not stay financial. It shows up as a short temper. It shows up as a bad interview. It shows up as 3 years of not applying for the better job because you cannot afford 2 weeks of transition, and after a while you stop even reading the listings. Otis has not slept a full night since March. He told Diane that, at the counter, in the flattest voice you have ever heard, like he was reporting the weather. Diane sleeps. That is not a personality difference. She has $18,000 in cash right now, and there is no version of the next 90 days that ends with her calling somebody to ask for help. So the process is off. The 2 a.m. calculation does not run, because there is nothing to calculate. And here is the part that compounds. A person with a quiet head negotiates better, interviews better, waits for the better price, spots the bad deal, and does not panic sell anything. Every single financial skill you will ever read about requires a calm head to execute. $10,000 is not the skill. $10,000 is the condition that makes the skills possible. You cannot think your way into good decisions while the background process is running. You have to turn it off first. And the off switch costs about $10,000. One more, and this is the one that actually explains why so few people ever get there. Number 6. Your identity flips, and the speed doubles. Diane's first $10,000 took her 31 months. $400 a month, which on $49,000 a year is not comfortable, and she stopped twice. Once for a root canal, once for a stretch in 2013, when the clinic cut hours, and she just could not. So call it 31 months of actual work to get to $10,000 and change. Her second $10,000 took 14 months. Nothing about her income changed. No raise, no side hustle, no windfall. What changed is that she had stopped being a person who was trying to save money and started being a person who had savings. Those are two different people, and they behave differently. The first person is negotiating with herself every month. Every deposit is a small argument. Should this go in, or should this fix the fence? And any decent reason wins the argument, because there is nothing on the other side of it yet. The second person is not negotiating. The number exists. The number has a shape. Taking from it feels like taking, and putting into it feels like normal. So the deposits stop being decisions and turn into weather. They just happen. That is why the first 10,000 is the only hard one. The first one is uphill against your own identity. Everyone after that is downhill, because by then the account is not a goal, it is a fact about you. And that is exactly what happened to Otis 3 times. He got to 11,000, and he was still, in his own head, a guy trying to save money. So the van won the argument. The awning won the argument. His daughter's wedding absolutely won the argument, and I would not say a word against that one. But he never crossed over. He kept touching the line and sliding back, and after the 3rd time he stopped trying. Because after the 3rd time, it starts to feel like the line does not want you. The line does not care about you. It is just a line. You have to hold it long enough for it to become boring, and boring is the whole trick. So what do you actually do Monday morning? 4 steps, and they are all small on purpose. This week, open one new account somewhere that is not your regular bank, and do not order a card for it. That is not a gimmick. Distance is what makes money harden. Otis's problem was never discipline. It was that his money was always 4 seconds away from being spent. Then move one amount into it today. $50 is fine. The number does not matter this week. The account existing does. This month, find your survival number, not your budget. Rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transport, insurance, minimum debt payments, nothing else. That is the number that matters, and it is almost always $300 to $500 lower than people expect. Multiply it by 3. That is your actual 10,000, and for a lot of you it is going to come in under 10, which means the finish line just moved closer than it was this morning. Diane's looks like this. Housing and taxes, $940. Utilities, $180. Food, $380. Car, gas and insurance and a repair fund, $310. Health, $240. Phone and internet, $90. $2,140 a month to keep her life running with nothing fun in it. Her real spending is $2,780, so there is $640 a month of actual life in there, and she is not pretending otherwise. But 3 months of survival for her is $6,420, not $10,000. She hit the point where the physics change well before she hit the round number, and so will most of you. Do the subtraction tonight. It is the cheapest 20 minutes in this whole video. This quarter, automate one transfer on payday, and make it slightly uncomfortable, not brutal, slightly. If it does not pinch a little, you will not restructure anything around it, and the restructuring is what makes it stick. Diane's $400 a month pinched for about 5 months, and then stopped being noticeable, and she has never raised it in 19 years. This year, do not touch it. That is the entire instruction. The account is going to hit 1,000, and something is going to break. It will hit 4,000 and there will be a very good reason. Around 8,000 you will start thinking about what you could do with it, and that thought is the actual final boss. Every single reason will be legitimate. Say no to all of them, one time, for 1 year, and then it hardens and you never have to fight this fight again. I want to be straight with you about something. $10,000 will not make you wealthy. It will not show up on your street, nobody will notice, and you cannot post it anywhere. It buys you nothing you can hold. What it buys is that the phone can ring with bad news, and you do not feel it in your body. It buys a Tuesday where the transmission goes out and it is a Tuesday. It buys the ability to look at somebody you depend on and tell them the truth. It buys sleeping through the night when the month is ugly. That is not a small life. That is most of a life. Most of what people call peace is really just having a few months of room between them and the next thing that goes wrong. Otis got his room, by the way. That fall, he opened a second account at a credit union across town, no card, and started moving $300 a month into it. He called it the oven money, which his wife thought was grim, and he did not care. It took him 26 months to get to 10,000, and then, because by then it was just what he did, another 18 months to get to 21. Last spring, the second oven went. The old one, the one on the left, 24 years old. Nobody was surprised. He paid for it that morning. $8,100, cash price, because paying same day got him 9% off the sticker, which is the discount he had been paying a premium to avoid for 22 years. And that white envelope from the first oven, the one he did not open for 3 days, is still there. He pinned it to the corkboard behind the register, next to the health inspection card and a photo of his daughter. It is yellow now. Most mornings he does not look at it. Diane still comes in at 6:10 for a small coffee. She still makes $49,000 a year. He never asked her how she does it. He just watched, for about a year, and then he started. I'll see you in the next one.